I'm Rachel, and for 10 years, I've lived a life as predictable as the ticking of a clock, bound by routine in a marriage that feels like a carefully drawn map. But last weekend, when my husband Daniel suggested a spontaneous camping trip into the wild heart of the forest, I felt the ground shift beneath me. As we drove deeper into the untamed wilderness, the air thick with the scent of pine and possibility, I sensed a fracture in our perfect facade, a crack that widened when an old flame from my past appeared at our campsite. Now, caught between the steady gaze of the man I vowed to love and the dangerous pull of a forbidden spark, I'm standing on the edge of a secret that could shatter everything. What did I do behind those shadowed trees? And what does Daniel know that he's not saying? Picture this. A single fragile thread stretched taut across a vast, empty canvas, trembling under the weight of its own predictability. That's my life. Or at least, that's how it feels as I stand at the edge of 39, looking back at a decade of carefully stitched moments. My name is Rachel, and I've spent 10 years married to Daniel, a man who, at 42, embodies the kind of calm that borders on stillness. He's the architect of our days, a master of control and order, crafting our routine with the precision of a clockmaker. Every morning, we sip our coffee at exactly 6:45, the steam curling up between us like a silent agreement. Every evening, we settle by the fireplace in our quiet suburban home, books in hand, the crackle of the logs the only sound daring to interrupt. It's a life mapped out to the minute, a script we've memorized without ever questioning the lines. Daniel works from home, a freelance editor always hunched over manuscripts or spreadsheets, his brow furrowed as if the weight of every misplaced comma rests on his shoulders. I run a small online boutique, crafting handmade jewelry, delicate silver loops and gemstone pendants that I pour my restless energy into. My hands are always moving, twisting wire, shaping something tangible out of chaos, while Daniel's world is all straight lines and red ink. Our home reflects him more than me. Everything in its place, not a speck of dust out of line. It's safe, this life we've built, but there are moments, late at night, when the house is too quiet, where I feel the walls pressing in, the air growing thick with unspoken words. I've never said it aloud, never let myself linger on the thought too long. To admit it would be to unravel the thread, and I'm not sure I'm ready for what lies on the other side. Daniel is a striking figure, tall and lean, with sharp gray eyes that seem to see through everything, cutting straight to the core. There's a quiet intensity to him, a presence that fills a room even when he's silent. I'm the opposite, all restless motion, my curly brown hair perpetually a little wild, strands slipping free no matter how I try to tame them. My hazel eyes are always darting, searching for something I can't quite name, a flicker of something more beyond the edges of our carefully drawn map. We're a study in contrasts, him the anchor, me the sail flapping in a wind I can't control. And yet, for 10 years, we've made it work, or at least convinced ourselves we have. So when Daniel suggested a camping trip last week, I nearly dropped the necklace I was working on. Spontaneity isn't in his vocabulary. Every decision is weighed, measured, planned. A weekend in the wilderness, just the two of us, surrounded by nothing but towering pines and the whisper of the wind. It was so unlike him that I couldn't help but stare, searching those gray eyes for a hint of what he was really thinking. But there was nothing, just that steady, unreadable gaze. So, I nodded, a mix of curiosity and apprehension stirring in my chest, and we packed up for the trip that very weekend. Now, here I am, sitting in the passenger seat of our old rumbling SUV, the windows rolled down as we carve our way through winding mountain roads. The air rushes in, crisp and sharp, carrying the scent of pine so strong it feels like I'm breathing in the forest itself. Daniel's hands are steady on the wheel, his focus unwavering, while I let my arm dangle out the window, feeling the cool breeze dance across my skin. The trees blur past us, a wall of deep green and shadow, and for the first time in what feels like forever, I sense a crack in the routine, a sliver of something wild and untamed peeking through. We arrive at the campsite by late afternoon, a small clearing nestled near a rushing river that cuts through the landscape like a silver vein. Towering evergreens surround us, their branches knitting together overhead, casting dappled light on the ground, which is soft with moss and a carpet of fallen needles. The sound of the water is constant, a soothing roar that fills the silence as we unload our gear. Setting up our little blue tent turns into a small ordeal. Daniel is methodical, hammering the stakes into the earth with precise, measured strikes, while I fumble with the poles, tangling them in my haste. I can't help but laugh at myself, the sound echoing lightly in the clearing. And Daniel glances over, the faintest hint of a smile tugging at his lips. It's a small thing, but it warms me. A reminder of why we've held on for so long. By the time the tent is up, the sun is dipping low, painting the sky in shades of amber and violet. We settle by the river on that first day, tin mugs of instant coffee in hand, the bitter warmth grounding me as I watch the water churn over smooth stones. The silence between us is familiar, comfortable in its way, but there's a weight to it, a heaviness I can't quite name. Thoughts I've buried for years seem to hover just out of reach, carried on the current of the river. I take a sip, the steam curling up in front of me, and glance at Daniel. His gray eyes are fixed on the horizon, distant, as if he's seeing something beyond the trees. I feel a flicker of excitement at being here, away from the ticking clock of our daily life. But there's something else too, a nagging unease, a whisper in the back of my mind that I can't shake. I tell myself it's just the unfamiliarity of it all, the vastness of the wilderness pressing in. But deep down, I wonder if it's something more. The next morning, I wake to the sound of birds and the faint rustle of movement nearby. Peeking out of the tent, I see two figures setting up camp a short distance away from our spot. My heart skips a beat as I recognize one of them. Jake, an old friend from college, someone I haven't seen in years. He's rugged now, broader in the shoulders, with a scruffy beard that suits the wildness of this place. His companion, a quiet guy whose name I don't catch, seems content to fade into the background. Jake spots me almost immediately, his face breaking into a wide, familiar grin as he waves. I wave back, a rush of nostalgia mixing with something I can't quite place, something that quickens my pulse. Daniel emerges from the tent behind me, his expression neutral as he nods in their direction. Jake strides over, all easy confidence, and we exchange quick hellos, the air between us charged with memories of late-night talks and reckless adventures from a time before I knew Daniel's steady hand. After a brief catch-up, Jake mentions they're short on firewood and asks if we'd like to join them on a quick trek into the woods to gather some. Daniel declines, saying he needs to organize our gear, but encourages me to go. There's no hint of suspicion in his voice, just that same measured tone he always uses. So I agree, grabbing my jacket and following Jake into the forest. The air grows cooler as we venture deeper, the canopy above blocking out most of the sunlight, casting everything in a muted emerald glow. The scent of damp earth and pine is stronger here, almost overwhelming, and I pull my jacket tighter around me as we walk. Jake leads the way, his steps sure and practiced, while I trail behind, navigating the uneven ground with less grace. The silence of the woods wraps around us, broken only by the crunch of twigs underfoot and the distant call of a bird. We come across a fallen log, its bark slick with moss, and I hesitate, unsure of my footing. Jake turns back, offering his hand with a small, reassuring smile. I take it, his grip firm and warm, and as he helps me over, a sudden jolt runs through me, unexpected and sharp. It's not just the contact, it's the way his fingers linger for a fraction of a second longer than necessary, the way my skin tingles where he touched me. I look up, and our eyes meet. His gaze is intense, almost hungry, piercing through me in a way that makes my breath catch. My own eyes must betray my uncertainty, but there's something else there too. A pull I can't ignore. A current drawing me in despite every warning in my head. We keep walking, but the tension between us is palpable now, a silent thread stretched tight. A few steps later, he reaches out again, this time to brush a stray strand of hair from my face. His touch lingers, his fingers grazing my cheek, and my heart hammers in my chest so loudly I'm sure he can hear it. I don't pull away. I can't. There's a part of me screaming to step back, to remember who I am, who I'm with. But it's drowned out by the rush of heat spreading through me, the way his closeness feels like a flame I've been starving for. My mind is a storm of conflict, but my body betrays me, leaning into the moment, into him. We find ourselves near a massive boulder, its surface rough and gray, shielding us from the path we came down. It's as if the forest itself conspires to hide us, the shadows deepening around us. Without a word, we slip behind it, out of sight, and everything I've held together for years unravels in an instant. What happens there is raw, impulsive, a desperate collision of need and longing that I can't stop, don't want to stop. It's quick, almost frantic, a stolen moment where the world narrows to just the two of us, the heat of our breaths mingling in the cool air, the forest holding its silence as if it's complicit in our secret. My senses are overwhelmed, every touch amplified, every sound a sharp edge against the quiet. Our ragged gasps, the rustle of fabric, the unspoken understanding that this is wrong, so wrong, but undeniable. When it's over, as the day fades into evening, I find myself sitting by the campfire, the crackle of the flames a restless companion to the turmoil churning inside me. The air is cool now, carrying the sharp scent of pine and smoke, and I poke at the meager dinner of canned beans and stale bread in my tin plate, my appetite nowhere to be found. Daniel sits across from me, his silhouette framed by the flickering light, his face unreadable as he eats in silence. The space between us feels heavier than ever, a chasm filled with things I can't bring myself to say. Every so often my eyes dart toward the woods, toward the spot where everything changed earlier today, and guilt claws at my chest, sharp and unrelenting. I force myself to look away, to focus on the fire, but the weight of what I've done lingers like a shadow I can't shake. I can't even glance at the other tent nearby, where Jake and his companion are settled for the night. Just knowing they're there, so close, makes my skin prickle with a mix of shame and something I don't want to name. My hands tremble slightly as I set my plate down, the metal clinking softly against a rock. Daniel doesn't seem to notice, or if he does, he doesn't comment. He's always been like that, observant in a way that feels almost clinical, as if he's cataloging every detail without letting on. The thought sends a shiver down my spine, and I wrap my arms around myself, pretending it's just the evening chill. As darkness fully settles over the campsite, the fire burns low, casting long, wavering shadows across the clearing. We don't linger outside. There's nothing to say, or maybe there's too much, and neither of us knows where to start. I mumble something about being tired, and Daniel nods, his gray eyes catching the last glint of firelight before we douse the embers with water. The hiss of the dying flames feels like a punctuation mark on a day I wish I could erase. We crawl into our little blue tent, the space cramped and suffocating, the air thick with the scent of nylon and earth. I unroll my sleeping bag, the rustle of fabric loud in the confined space, and lie down, my body tense as I stare at the sagging ceiling of the tent. Outside, the river rushes on, a constant murmur that should be soothing, but instead feels like it's mocking the chaos in my head. My thoughts are a tangled mess, replaying every moment from earlier, every choice I made behind that boulder, every stolen second that felt both wrong and electric. Daniel settles beside me, close enough that I can feel the heat of him through the thin barrier of our sleeping bags, but far enough that there's no accidental touch. I keep my eyes fixed upward, afraid of what I might see if I look at him, afraid of what he might see in me. My heart is a drumbeat in my chest, too loud, too fast, and I try to focus on the sound of the river, willing it to drown out the noise in my mind. But it doesn't work. The guilt is a living thing, gnawing at me, whispering accusations I can't ignore. I betrayed him. I betrayed us. And yet, beneath that, there's a flicker of something else, a dangerous thrill that I hate myself for feeling. The silence stretches on, heavy and oppressive, until Daniel's voice cuts through it like a blade, low and deliberate, sending a jolt through my entire body. "I saw everything," he says, each word measured, precise, as if he's been holding them back for hours. My breath catches, sharp and painful, and I freeze, my muscles locking as if I've been caught in a trap. He doesn't stop there, though. His voice dips even lower, a tone I've never heard from him before, laced with something raw and unguarded. "I wanted it. You're beautiful when you let go." The words hang in the air, heavy and charged, and for a moment, I can't process them. My mind reels, scrambling to make sense of what he's just said. Saw everything? Wanted I wake up to the chill of the morning seeping through the thin walls of our tent, my breath visible in faint puffs in the dim light. The forest outside is cloaked in a heavy mist, the kind that clings to everything, damp and cold, wrapping the world in a ghostly veil. My body feels heavy, weighed down by the restless night and the echo of Daniel's words still ringing in my ears. I saw everything. I wanted it. They loop in my mind, relentless, each syllable a sharp edge that cuts deeper with every replay. I lie there for a moment, staring at the sagging fabric above me, trying to anchor myself in the reality of this new day, but my thoughts are a storm I can't escape. What does he mean by wanted it? What does he see in me now? And why does a part of me, buried beneath the shame, feel a strange, unsettling thrill at his confession? I force myself to move, unzipping my sleeping bag with trembling fingers, the sound unnaturally loud in the confined space. Daniel is already gone, his side of the tent empty, the imprint of his body still faintly visible on the ground. I pull on my jacket, the fabric stiff from the damp, and crawl out into the morning. The air hits me like a slap, sharp and biting, carrying the scent of wet pine and earth. The mist hangs low, obscuring the edges of the clearing, making the towering trees look like shadowy giants lurking just out of sight. The river's murmur is a constant undercurrent, a reminder of where I am, but it does little to ground me. My mind is still spinning, caught in the web of last night's revelation, trying to piece together the man I thought I knew, with the one who spoke those words in the dark. I stand there for a moment, rubbing my arms against the cold, when I hear the crunch of footsteps on the needle-strewn ground. My heart jumps, a reflex born of guilt and fear. But it's just Jake, emerging from the haze like a figure from a dream I can't shake. He's wearing a worn flannel shirt, the sleeves rolled up despite the chill, and his scruffy beard catches the faint light filtering through the mist. His casual smile is disarming, almost too easy, as if nothing has changed, as if yesterday's stolen moment behind the boulder never happened. He walks toward me with that same confident stride I remember from college, closing the distance until he's standing just a little too close. I can smell the faint trace of wood smoke on him, mixed with something earthy, and it stirs a memory I'm desperate to bury. "Morning," he says, his voice low, almost intimate, and before I can respond, he leans in even closer, his breath warm against the cold air. My pulse quickens, a traitor to my resolve, as he drops his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Daniel mentioned he wants to film us together. If you're okay with it?" The words hit me like a physical blow, a punch to the gut that steals the air from my lungs. My mouth goes dry, my tongue sticking to the roof as I try to process what he's just said. Film us? Together? My eyes dart instinctively toward the river, where I can just make out Daniel's silhouette through the mist, bent over as he washes up, his movements deliberate and unhurried. When did they talk about this? How did this even come up? My mind races, grasping for some logical thread, but there's nothing. Only a yawning void of confusion and dread. I stand there, rooted to the spot, as a wave of emotions crashes over me. Disgust churns in my stomach at the very idea, a visceral rejection of being turned into some kind of spectacle. Fear creeps in next, cold and insidious, as I grapple with this new side of Daniel, a voyeuristic edge I never saw coming, a darkness that feels so at odds with the controlled, meticulous man I've shared a life with for a decade. How could he want this? How could he suggest it to Jake without even speaking to me first? And yet, beneath the revulsion and the fear, there's something else. The rest of that day passes in a blur, a haze of muted colors and half-formed thoughts that slip through my mind like smoke. The forest around us seems to close in tighter, the towering pines whispering secrets in the wind, their shadows stretching long and jagged across the clearing. The tension between me, Daniel, and Jake is a living thing, a storm brewing just beneath the surface, dark clouds gathering with no promise of release. Every glance, every fleeting moment of eye contact feels charged, heavy with unspoken questions and accusations I'm too afraid to voice. I move through the hours like a ghost, my body going through the motions, gathering twigs for a fire I don't care to light, sipping water from a dented canteen that tastes of metal and regret, while my mind is elsewhere, trapped in a loop of what was said, what was done, and what might still come. Later that afternoon, as the sun dips low and bathes the campsite in a golden glow that feels too warm for the chill in my bones, I see Daniel near the edge of our little setup, his movements deliberate as always. He's setting up a small tripod, the kind you'd use for a camera on a casual trip. But there's nothing casual about the way he adjusts it. His hands are precise, clinical, as if this is just another item on a checklist, another planned activity in a weekend that spiraled far beyond anything I could have imagined. The metal legs click into place with a sound that cuts through the quiet, sharp and final, and I watch, frozen, as he attaches a small camera, its lens glinting like a cold, unblinking eye. My stomach twists, a knot of dread tightening until it's hard to breathe, but I can't look away. It's as if I'm watching a scene unfold that I'm not a part of, a story I don't want to be written into. Jake is there too, standing a few paces away from me, his posture tense but his face betraying a flicker of curiosity, maybe even anticipation. I feel the weight of his presence, the memory of our shared transgression burning under my skin, but I can't meet his eyes. Instead, I focus on that camera, on the tiny red light that blinks to life as Daniel switches it on. It's a signal, a warning, a declaration of intent, and it pins me in place. Daniel steps back, his face a mask of calm, unreadable as ever, and he gestures for us to move closer with a quiet, almost detached command. His voice is steady, devoid of emotion, as if he's directing a mundane task rather than something that feels like it's peeling back the layers of who we are. I comply, my legs moving on their own, though every step feels like wading through quicksand. Standing there with Jake, the camera's gaze fixed on us, I feel a surreal detachment settle over me, like I'm floating outside my own body, watching this unfold from a distance. The air is thick, heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth, but it's not enough to ground me. My heart thuds dully in my chest, a rhythm out of sync with the world around me, and I'm caught between a sense of violation and something else, something I can't name, something that feels like a twisted kind of empowerment, as if by stepping into this frame, I'm reclaiming a piece of myself I didn't know I'd lost. It's a contradiction that tears at me, a war between shame and a strange, fleeting strength. The moment stretches, taut and fragile, every second captured by that blinking red light. every breath a silent confession of the boundaries we're crossing. I don't know what the lens sees, what story it's weaving, but I feel exposed in a way that's both terrifying and oddly liberating, as if I'm shedding a skin I've worn too long. It ends as abruptly as it began. Daniel cuts the recording with a flick of a switch, the red light dying like a snuffed-out flame, and he begins packing up the equipment without a word. His movements are efficient, mechanical, as if what just happened was nothing more than a routine task to be checked off. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.